Once all of the preliminary work has been completed, it is time to apply the 7 principles of HACCP. The first principle is to conduct a hazard analysis to identify possible contamination threats, assess the level of risk of any threat, the severity of the threat, and any control measures that may need to be taken. But before we dive into the first principle, let's quickly recap and clarify the previous few videos to pull it all together. A HACCP plan for food service is all about identifying reasonable risks and taking the required steps to reduce or eliminate those risks in order to keep food products safe for consumption while it is under your span of control. The preliminary programs that are reviewed and assessed are not, in whole, part of the HACCP plan. They are to be maintained separately from HACCP with their own documentation and auditing procedures, although specific points within those programs can become part of the overall HACCP plan. The completion of the preliminary and preparation steps prior to applying the 7 HACCP principles are necessary in order to provide the foundational elements required for the success of the plan. Results of their completion include your HACCP development team, data collected from the auditing of the preliminary programs, understanding all aspects of the food products produced and their distribution, the intended consumers, and how the products flow throughout your organization. With your team properly prepared and educated, they can now effectively implement a thorough hazard analysis, which is a key element to having an effective HACCP plan. What is the purpose of the hazard analysis? To identify potential hazards that, if not effectively controlled, could cause illness or injury. These hazards must have a reasonable chance of occurring, otherwise they are no longer considered. Items that affect the quality of the food product but are not considered an element of contamination which could cause illness or injury are not considered a hazard and are not addressed. A hazard is any agent, whether biological, chemical, or physical, which, if not properly controlled, would likely cause illness or injury. As stated, this step is critical to the success of the overall HACCP plan, for if this step fails to identify hazards or the correct measures to reduce or eliminate them, no matter how well the plan is implemented or followed, the plan will fail. There are 3 objectives designated to this step: to identify hazards and the methods required to control or eliminate them, to identify processes that can or need to be modified in order to improve the safety of your food products, and to analyze and process the collected data so that it can be used by Principle 2, determining your critical control points. Our next video will continue to dive deeper into Principle 1, conducting a hazard analysis.